Welcome to the Loving and Effective Parent. My name is James Shaver. If you are not happy with the way your children treat you and you are ready to do something about it, this could be your lucky day. I certainly hope so. The approach I am about to share with you is the easiest and most effective way to start taking control of how your children treat you. And this approach has proven itself remarkably effective with the parents that I've coached over the years. Whether you are dealing with crazy, out of control disrespect, or you just want to tighten things up a bit, this video series will give you the skills and confidence you need to start shutting down disrespectful behaviors calmly and effectively. By the end, if you do the work, you will have significant control over how your children treat you. You will also know how to hold your ground and let a consequence do the heavy lifting for you. I want you to get excited about that, especially if you've been dealing with constant and blatant disrespect. Things are about to change for you. Here's the plan. We are going to establish and maintain a very specific and strategic personal boundary. And then we are going to shut down any and all disrespect and disrespectful behaviors within reach of that personal boundary. And I do mean shut down. Not by force. We don't even have to raise our voices. Instead, we are going to shut down these disrespectful behaviors calmly and confidently without any unnecessary conflict or relationship damage. Now, I know that may sound too good to be true, but this is the loving and effective parent. Loving and effective. That's the sweet spot that makes all good things possible. Please hear me. If we want our children to treat us with respect, there is no way around this personal boundary. Without this personal boundary in place, our children will continue to treat us poorly because, to be honest, we're easy targets. Establishing our personal boundary shuts that down. But that's not all. Once we are no longer such an easy target, we can start turning our children's disrespect and rudeness into respect and kindness. Yes, we are going to turn disrespectful behaviors into respectful behaviors. But before we get started, let's take a quick look at the 3 parts in this video series. Part 1, this video, covers 6 concepts and realities we need to understand before we start shutting down disrespectful behaviors. Okay, let's see, there's 6 of them. All right, 1, what happens when disrespect is tolerated or allowed or appeased? 2, double trouble. Parental poisons and empty words are a huge problem. 3, every child's disrespect has the same weak spot. And yes, we are going to take complete advantage of that. 4, the dark side of variable reinforcement is probably blindsiding us and we don't even know it. And 5, the personal boundary that changes everything. And 6 is something about a firm, friendly robot with a plan. Part 2, the middle video in this series, covers how to actually establish and maintain our personal boundary using what we learned in Part 1. We work our way through that process step by step in great detail. But Part 2 won't make any sense unless you've already watched Part 1. Part 3, the last video in the series, wraps things up with a number of topics including the 2 most common ways to fail and the surprise benefit of success. I will also share 2 inspiring and real-life stories that will probably frighten a few of us. Are you ready? Let's get started. Even in small amounts, disrespectful behaviors can spoil anything they touch. A trip to the store, a meal out, a meal at home, a birthday party, you name it, they can spoil it. And yet, from what I've seen working with parents, most of us greatly underestimate the destructive power of disrespect. We don't really seem to understand how it works. When we tolerate or allow or try to appease disrespect and disrespectful behaviors, they just grow stronger and more determined. That is the reality we all face. Unfortunately, some of us are in denial when it comes to that reality. Oh, it's not that bad. She's just tired, or he didn't really mean it, or the kids are just going through a phase right now. I mean, there's a million things we can tell ourselves, but that doesn't change the reality one bit. Wishful thinking will not help us shut down disrespectful behaviors. On the other hand, some of us are openly frustrated and even angry. Why do my children keep doing this to me? When will my children ever learn? Why can't my children just behave the way they're supposed to? I hear these questions a lot. By the end of this video series, you should have a pretty good sense of why these things are happening. Okay, let's get back to disrespect that is allowed to grow. Tolerated and appeased disrespect will blossom into all kinds of unacceptable attitudes and behaviors. A lack of gratitude is a big one. Children who disrespect us without an ounce of gratitude for everything that we do for them, that's a pretty bitter pill to swallow. But a lack of gratitude is not the only bad thing that grows out of tolerated, allowed, or appeased disrespect. There's also defiance, entitlement, aggression, selfishness, lack of empathy. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's look at it this way. The disrespect is the roots of a tree. And all those unacceptable attitudes and behaviors are the branches. Unless we do something about it, this tree will keep growing bigger and stronger. Can you picture it? The roots, the disrespect, so down here, are feeding and encouraging all the branches, all the unacceptable behaviors out here. Unfortunately, many of us end up spending a lot of time and effort hacking away at these growing branches out here, trying to get these unacceptable behaviors under some kind of control. Just hacking back at them all the time. Do you keep having similar or the same arguments over and over again? Do you find yourself dealing with the same unacceptable behaviors over and over again? As long as we keep hacking away at the branches out here, the roots of disrespect will keep feeding and strengthening those unacceptable behavior branches. And those branches can grow as fast or faster than we can trim them. Sometimes it feels like we will never be able to catch up, no matter how hard we try. That's why we need to get out of the tree trimming business. Instead, we need to go after the roots. We have to go directly after the disrespect and disrespectful behaviors right when and where they begin. We need to learn how to cut them off before they spread and grow. We need to cut into the roots so deeply, the branches wither and die. Establishing our personal boundary is the best and most effective way to start cutting deeply into those roots. For many of us, especially if things have been pretty bad, it will take some real effort and determination to start turning things around. But once we get our personal boundary established, maintaining that boundary is a whole lot easier. All it will take is a look or a word or a quick reminder to shut down disrespectful behaviors before they take root and spread. I want you to imagine yourself calmly and confidently shutting down disrespectful behaviors. What would that be like? What would that feel like? Here's a hint. It feels great. I've helped many parents get to that point. I would love for you to join them. It is a very happy group. And the first step to joining that happy group is understanding and believing when we let disrespect and disrespectful behaviors take root, when we allow them to get a foothold, they grow into bigger and uglier problems. The second step to joining that happy group is making a decision and a commitment. I will establish and maintain my personal boundary. Now, if the tree metaphor doesn't work for you, here's a few more. And I'm not being overly dramatic. Remember, I see this stuff all the time. Disrespect and disrespectful behaviors are like a cancer that spreads. They are like weeds that take over the whole garden. That really is what it feels like. They take over the whole garden. Let's think. One more. They are like a raging forest fire that burns everything in its path. Okay, I heard that as I was saying it. Okay, that one's a bit much, but you get the idea. The important thing is we deal with this reality as it is, not as we wish it was. And ignoring it will just make it worse. Now, before we move on to the next section, I would like to just add a little bit of perspective here. No matter how horribly our children are treating us, this is not some mighty battle between good and evil. We are not the good guys, and our children are not the bad guys. Disrespectful children are not bad children. They are children who need our help. The truth is, disrespectful children are not happy children, and they are developing some really bad habits and attitudes. So, yes, we need to shut down disrespect for our own sanity and quality of life, but we also need to do it for our children. They need us to do this for them. Parental poisons and empty words can take any parent's best intentions and completely trash them. If you really want to make a mess of everything, parental poisons can pretty much guarantee that. If you just want to be really ineffective, empty words are definitely the best way to go. These two natural disasters deserve their own videos. And hopefully at some point I will make them. But for right now, we're just going to take a quick look at these things because we need to understand them before we try to shut down disrespect. All right, let's start with parental poisons. I made up the name parental poisons to remind parents these things are bad. Parental poisons include things like yelling, nagging, scolding, lecturing, threatening, judging, comparing, anything like that. Every human being on the planet hates that stuff when it's directed at them. Just think about it. Do you like being yelled at? Do you like being nagged? How about being scolded? Nobody does. Be honest. How do you feel inside when someone treats you that way? The thing is, our children feel the exact same way we do. And believe me, it does not make them want to behave any better. Usually it's just the opposite. That's because parental poisons are incredibly disrespectful. How can we expect our children to treat us respectfully when we are yelling at them or threatening them or nagging them? It's not going to happen. Maybe we get lucky sometimes. Maybe it seems to work. Maybe we think these approaches are working. But the truth is, parental poisons create far more problems than they ever solve, especially when it comes to relationships. The bottom line, parental poisons poison relationships. Parental poisons make us significantly less effective and much more destructive. Parental poisons almost always lead to unnecessary and avoidable power struggles. There are much better approaches to discipline, as we will see. So, the second one, empty words. Ineffective parents almost always use way too many words when it comes to discipline. Effective parents, on the other hand, use surprisingly few. When we use too many words, these words become empty, and our children stop listening to them. If we just keep talking and talking, the value of our words can drop all the way to zero. And that's a real problem because our children pay attention to the value of our words. Their big concern, the thing that they're focused on, what are our words connected to? That's not so easy to say. What are our words connected to? Are they connected to any kind of reality or action or follow through? If our children think our words are not connected to anything real, they will feel free to ignore us or argue with us because they know our words are empty. For example, if we say, if you jump off that swing one more time, we will go straight home. Then the child jumps off the swing one more time and we don't go straight home. It doesn't matter if the child did it on purpose or simply forgot. Because we did not go straight home like we said, the child now knows those words were not connected to anything real. Those words were empty. They didn't mean anything. If this happens repeatedly, our empty words are actually encouraging the bad behavior we don't like. And that's our fault. That's on us. Please hear me. Using empty words repeatedly literally trains our children to ignore us or argue with us. We're training them to do that. Remember these 3 questions? Why do my children keep doing this to me? When will my children ever learn? Why can't my children just behave the way they're supposed to? That is what happens when our words are empty. If our words are not connected to anything real, our children's unacceptable behavior patterns will keep repeating forever. And we will be hacking away at the branches out here for the rest of our parenting lives. So, until we start connecting our words or until we connect our words to something real, our words won't have enough value. And our children know it. And they will probably not give us the time of day. Once at the beginning of an 8-week parenting class, I'm going to tell you this story. So a parent came up to me at the beginning of the class and looked kind of in a panic and said, I need to be more effective with my discipline. Things are really falling apart at home. What can I do to get better right now? I thought about it and I came up with this. If you want to become more effective, use half the words you would normally use in a discipline situation. If you want to be more effective immediately, use 1/10 of the words you would normally use. Then I realized the class was kind of listening in on this conversation, so I told everybody in the class to give that a try for the next week. The sharing at the beginning of the next class was pretty loud and quite enthusiastic. Story after story sounded like this. My children actually listened to me for a change. Or, I can't believe how much more cooperative my children were. The parents were shocked. Using significantly fewer words made the words they did use much more effective. Taking the time to think things through and choosing their words wisely made a huge difference on how their children responded. There is so much more to this that we don't unfortunately have time for, but I will give you this little piece of reality, this little piece of math to think about. When it comes to discipline, 2 words connected to something real are worth more than 1,000 words connected to nothing. So, there you have it. Double trouble. 2 of the most dependable ways to completely undermine and sabotage our own parenting. Parental poisons and empty words actually increase our children's disrespect and disrespectful behaviors. The very things we're trying to shut down. Unfortunately, these 2 traps are unbelievably easy to fall into, especially in the heat of the moment. Let's be honest. All of us have fallen into these traps at one time or another. It's almost impossible not to. But we need to do better. Actually, We have to do better. If we keep using parental poisons and empty words, shutting down disrespect and disrespectful behaviors might not even be possible. Parental poisons and empty words are that big of a problem. If you are really struggling with these issues, I want you to be encouraged. In this video series, we will learn how to replace parental poisons with more effective options. We will also learn how to connect our words to something real, so they won't be empty. Luckily for us, every child's disrespect and disrespectful behaviors have the exact same weak spot. And what is this weak spot? When our children want something from us. Only when they want something from us. It could be a popsicle, a ride to the mall, help with something, buy me something. It doesn't really matter as long as they want something from us. When our children want something from us, they are at their most vulnerable. This is the easiest and most effective place to challenge and overcome their disrespectful behavior. In these types of situations, we have the leverage. We have the advantage. Even time is on our side, especially if our children are in some kind of a hurry. When our children want something from us, they are dependent on us to give it to them. We don't have to give it to them. That reality is our big opportunity. If our children ask us rudely for something, this is where we make our stand. This is where we start shutting down disrespectful behaviors. And how do we do that? We are not going to accept any disrespect from our children when they want something from us. If you are underwhelmed by that, give it time. This is the personal boundary that I've been talking about. This personal boundary, not accepting any disrespect from our children when they want something from us, is a very strategic and carefully chosen objective. This goal has two huge, and I do mean huge, advantages. That is why this is the easiest and most effective place to start shutting down disrespectful behaviors. The first advantage is we do not need our children's cooperation to achieve this goal. We don't have to get them to do anything. Not accepting any disrespect from our children when they want something from us depends on our behavior and our behavior only. That makes it an always enforceable consequence. That means we can always achieve our goal no matter what our children do. The second advantage is our children are already motivated because they want something from us. That's a big deal. Motivating our children to do something they don't want to do is almost always the hardest part. Let's say we want our children to clean their room or feed the dog or do their homework, and they really don't want to. The burden of motivating the children is usually on us. We have to provide the motivation and follow through and hopefully get them to do it somehow. All our children have to do is try and get out of it or give us a hard time. I think all of us have experienced that in one form or another. But when our children want something from us, their motivation is built in. When they approach us already motivated. They want something. So the hard part is already done. All we have to do is take advantage of that motivation and let it guide and drive their behavior. As I said before, not accepting any disrespect from our children when they want something from us is the easiest and most effective way to challenge and shut down disrespect and disrespectful behaviors. Do not look for another or an easier way. There isn't one. Word to the wise. If we can't shut down disrespectful behaviors when our children want something from us, we're not going to be able to shut down disrespectful behaviors anywhere else. If we can't win here, we can't win anywhere. That's why it's so important we establish our personal boundary first. We must completely master not accepting any disrespect from our children when they want something from us before we move on to other things. Success here gives us the deeper understanding, the improved skills, and the greater confidence necessary for more challenging discipline situations. And that kind of progress happens as we establish and maintain our personal boundary. It is within the process itself. It is while we are actually doing the work of establishing this boundary that we become more and more skilled, more and more confident, and more capable of loving and effective discipline. When we master our personal boundary, we will have a rock-solid foundation we can build on and work from. That is a huge deal. If we don't establish our personal boundary, if we do accept disrespect from our children when they want something from us, we usually end up in this kind of a mess. Our children ask us for things inappropriately, and they still get what they want. So they were rude, but they still ended up getting what they wanted. There's usually two parts to that: asking us rudely and disrespectfully in the first place, and then arguing or fighting with us when we say no. Every human child ever born has tried that at least once. The thing is, we need to shut down both parts. This kind of disrespectful behavior is a problem on many levels. But the one that concerns us right now, children will repeat any behavior that works for them. As far as they are concerned, their inappropriate behavior is working because they eventually got what they wanted. Now, you might be thinking, I don't give in all the time, or even most of the time. Here's the problem with that. Think slot machines. People know they are not going to win every time they pull the handle or push the button. But they also know they will win eventually if they keep trying. Does that sound like anybody you know? In the world of psychology, that's called variable reinforcement, or a variable reinforcement schedule. Only some of the responses are rewarded or reinforced. There's no fixed pattern to it. That makes it one of the most powerful psychological motivators there is. And it can be a nightmare for unsuspecting parents. We can get really frustrated and wonder why our children keep behaving the way they do. Do you remember the 3 questions? Why do my children keep doing this to me? When will my children ever learn? Why can't my children just behave the way they're supposed to? Once again, we are unwittingly encouraging the very behaviors we are trying to stop. We are actually training our children to keep trying with their inappropriate behaviors. Let's say 3 times in a row, our child, 3 times in a row, our child asks us rudely for something, and we hold the line each time. We don't give in to the inappropriate behavior. So good for us. But the 4th time, the child asks us, it's not quite as bad. It's not good, but it's better than it's been. And we've been saying no a lot lately, and we're tired. So we say yes. Even though the child did not ask us nicely, we say yes. What we've just done is re-energize and motivate that child to push even harder and longer the next time we say no. As long as our children think there's a chance they can get what they want, they will keep trying, especially if their past experience has shown them that not giving up works. They will keep repeating that bad behavior because it works for them. Now, they may hate our yelling, nagging, scolding, and lecturing, or whatever it is that we're doing to hack away at the branches out here. But for them, putting up with all of that is just the cost of doing business with us. And they are willing to pay that cost. And as long as they're willing to pay that cost, nothing is going to change. The bottom line, our children are not going to change their behavior because they have no good reason to. What they are doing now is working for them. Until we understand that, and I mean truly understand that, we will not be able to stop this repeating pattern of inappropriate behavior because what we are doing now is actually encouraging it. Please hear me. If we are caught in this never-ending merry-go-round of a trap, what we are doing now is not working. So it does not matter what we say or how many times we say it. It does not matter what we do or how many times we do it. It does not matter how frustrated we are, or upset we are, or disappointed we are. Until we change our behavior, our children will not change theirs. There's no way around that reality. If we are determined to shut down disrespect and disrespectful behaviors, we need to change our behavior first. We need to stop hacking away at the branches out here and cut deeply into the root. And that brings us back to this. Whenever our children want something from us and they approach us with a bad attitude and disrespect, they never get what they want. Period. End of story. No exceptions. Now, do not panic or get all weird on me. We are not the bad guy here. We are not being unreasonable or mean or unloving. We are simply establishing a good and healthy personal boundary. So, what does this personal boundary look like? Ask me nicely. I will gladly consider your request. Ask me rudely. I will not consider your request. It's that simple. Don't make it any more complicated than that. Please hear me. There is nothing about that personal boundary that is unreasonable or unfair or too high of an expectation, even for 3-year-olds and most 2-year-olds. Let's not lose perspective here. All we are asking is that our children ask us nicely when they want something. That's all we're asking. That is not a lot. And yet, the number of children willing to fight that personal boundary reveals there is more going on here than manners. The underlying and deeper issue here, the more important issue, is the nature of our relationship with our children, especially when it comes to respect. If we think this is only about manners, we might get sloppy with our personal boundary and our children will just continue to walk all over us. But when we embrace our personal boundary, when we hold the line, our children's rude behavior becomes their problem, and their problem alone. And guess what? When their rude behavior becomes their problem, when their bad behavior no longer works for them, they will figure it out. They will solve it. And they will change their behavior accordingly. That's the beauty of this approach. That's the beauty of giving our children a simple choice. We don't have to make our children change their behavior at all. They will do that on their own. I hope nobody is rolling their eyes at me right now. Some of us are definitely going to have trouble believing that. But have a little faith. I've seen this happen so many times, and I have watched many parents become believers. That could be you and your children. I certainly hope so. But this will only happen if we stick to the plan and don't give in or compromise. Before we move on to the next section, I would like to share something that can be confusing, especially considering what I just told you. Here it is. The ultimate purpose of our personal boundary is to take control of how we are treated, not our children's behavior. Think about that. Our personal boundary is all about us and our identity and our self-respect and our self-care. We are not going to accept any disrespect from our children when they want something from us, no matter what. It doesn't matter what our children do. This is not about them. This is about us. When we do it right, our children will see that. They will realize our personal boundary is not about them or their behavior at all. Our personal boundary is all about how we expect to be treated. And not just how we expect to be treated, but how we insist on being treated. When we establish our personal boundary convincingly, that is when everything changes. That is when our children will look at us and think about us differently. We have held our ground in a calm and respectful manner. And we have earned their respect, and perhaps even our own. One of my greatest joys working with families is listening to parents who have made this profound breakthrough. Their faces and their eyes just light up with a sense of accomplishment and joy and deep satisfaction. That is what I want for you. So how should we interact with our children in discipline situations? Here's a little strategy I came up with to help the parents I coach. Imagine yourself as a firm, friendly robot. Not a stiff-armed dancing robot, but a very calm and in control of itself robot. Usually when we crash and burn as parents, it's because our emotions got the best of us. We let ourselves be triggered. We reacted before we could think. We let it get personal. Or we don't have the confidence and skills that we need. And sometimes we just don't have a clue. A firm, friendly robot has none of those problems. A firm, friendly robot is always calm, confident, and in full control of its words, body language, and actions. A firm, friendly robot cannot be manipulated, intimidated, or worn down. We need those parental superpowers. We need to be a firm, friendly robot with a plan. This is what our children need to see when they come at us with a bad attitude and disrespect when they are asking for something. They need to see a firm, friendly parent who does not have a problem. We are okay if they get what they want, and we are just as okay if they don't get what they want. Doesn't matter to us one way or the other. The only thing that matters to us is how they ask, and that's up to them. If they ask rudely, that's their problem, because we don't have a problem. That is what our words, and our words should be very few, that is what our words, body language, and actions need to convey to our children. We need to be convincing. If our children refuse to ask us nicely, we simply honor the choice they made. We do not hold their choice against them. We do not scold them. We do not try to get them to change their mind. We are a firm, friendly robot with a plan. Once our children realize we have no intention of accepting any disrespect when they want something from us, they will also realize their bad behavior no longer works. Now, they might not be happy about that, especially if they've been getting away with murder, and that shouldn't be a surprise. They may pitch a fit or throw a tantrum or say some really mean things. But because we are a firm, friendly robot with a plan, we will not let ourselves get sucked into any of that. No parental poisons or empty words, no retaliation or defending ourselves, none of that stuff. This is not personal. This is business, parenting business. All that matters is we remain calm, that we behave well, and that we keep our personal boundary intact. We do not accept any disrespect from our children when they want something from us because we are a firm, friendly robot with a plan. Well, that's it for part 1. Are you ready to start applying everything we just learned? Are you ready to establish your personal boundary and begin shutting down disrespectful behaviors? That all happens in part 2, the next video in this 3-part series. Thanks for watching. And remember, loving and effective is always the best way to go. One more thing before I go. I'm pretty excited about these videos. If these videos helped you, could you please help me spread the word? I'm not great at social media, but together we can really make a difference. Think of all the families we can help and encourage. So please like, subscribe, and definitely share. That's the most important. I can't do this without you. Thanks.